All right, so today's video request comes from Inu Blue 4295, one of my biggest supporters on this platform. And she asked this morning, I want a video on how people see the finish line. And I thought about that because most of us don't acknowledge the people that never make it. The people that go to school and never graduate, learn a trade, but realize that it's hard, start a community college certification and never finish, go to the university, start a 4 year degree, get 2 years into it, and realize that you're not really that interested in what you were studying. That's something that happened to me when I got into psychology. The first year to 2 years of your university degree are pretty boring. You're not going to get to do the classes that you want to do. And when you finally get to the classes that you want to do, there's only a few that are left that are going to be any good, which are your 300 and 400 level classes. So for me, getting to that point was a back and forth of trying different majors and trying things that I knew weren't going to work out. Like for me to try to take any sort of computer class was completely out of the question. I couldn't force myself to go to school to learn anything having to do with technology. I didn't care about it. I didn't want to be in it. I spent my whole life trying to run away from having to work in the technology field. But unfortunately, it's one of those things that you can teach yourself. And it's what I did as a teenager. It's really easy to look at what jobs are going to pay more than working at Taco Bell, or even worse, working outside the Taco Bell like Susie Rottencrotch does after her regular shift. But we don't acknowledge those people. The people that don't win. The people that don't live in fancy homes. The millions of people that live in rundown apartments like I do. In a place that you never imagined yourself living because your parents didn't live in places like this. Because you saw that the rest of your family was doing really well. You look at your older siblings, even your younger siblings, your friends, your coworkers, people you knew in college, the people that for some reason or another had more opportunity than you did. As a person that comes from zero opportunity, from one of the worst parts in Latin America, the opportunity to be held up, because that's the difference between generations, is that there are people who are going to be held up. You're going to have a foundation. You're going to have parents who speak English. You're going to have parents who are educated. You're going to have parents who are actually interested in your education rather than putting you down your whole life as like you're wasting your time going to school. Now I acknowledge that going to university was a total waste of time and that inevitably I was just going to have to find a profession in which I could make money. It wasn't about happiness. It wasn't about making it there. It was about being part of the quiet tens of millions, if not more people just in this country alone that never really make it. And I spent 20 years sitting on a city bus looking at people who weren't going to make it. People who were going to live like I do, paycheck to paycheck, miserable lives, eating what you can, eating ramen for at least one meal per day, just like Gen Z does at Evil Corp. It's not about making it. It's about what are you going to do? In fact, today I was talking to one of my work friends. She called me at home today. We were talking about a person that got let go from Evil Corp, and she was describing a very different person than the person I knew. She was describing a person who was teaching, who was a upstanding citizen, a person who was into the outdoors and was very fit. She was describing a person I never met. The person I met as that person had problems with substances, had problems with emotions, had maybe even a mild form of schizophrenia. And that person is a person, the person she described wasn't, we were talking about the same person, but she knew him over 5 or 6 years ago when she lived in that state. She doesn't live there anymore. She actually lives on the exact opposite part of the country she lived, as far away as humanly possible from where she used to live. on the East Coast now. But we talk pretty frequently. And that subject just kept coming up because she just didn't understand. And I didn't know this at the time. But there are people who are so, I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say addicted, but more like a dependency. They don't have anyone else other than that pet, other than that cat or that dog or a gerbil or whatever. They don't have ties to this world other than through that animal. And this person who is no longer with the company, well, that person probably lost the most important thing in their life, which was their animal, a few weeks back. I had no idea that that had happened, but she seemed to take it as a beginning to an end to mental stability. But with that said, let's get back into the video because I've been off on a tangent. I hope you guys enjoyed the art. I'm really enjoying animating for the channel lately. But without further ado, let's get into our talking points for today. No one claps for you when you're just trying, when you're failing quietly, holding back tears in public, or getting back up after another. No, the world looks away. But the second you make it, suddenly everyone claims they were cheering for you all along. That's the society that we live in. It's a very phony world. It's like when you congratulate someone on getting a promotion that you don't think that they really deserved, or when a coworker calls you and they're furious about something at work and you just kind of like calm them down. Like I had that conversation earlier this week with one of our senior level people. He called me up and I'm like, whoa, you gotta take it down a tone. You can't you can't call me like this on 1,000% of energy, especially when it comes to negative energy. And you're just like, we all know that there are problems here. You just have to control your emotions. And that's the thing about dealing with people in the technology field is that a lot of them, I would say nearly 99.9% of these people are going to have the inability to censor themselves or to make certain that they come to work and that they're in the right mindset. I've had to deal with that throughout my entire life in this community, is that they are very animated, especially when it comes towards things that aren't particularly popular among the ordinary people. These people get excited about technology and they get really ruffled up when it comes to things at work not going the way that they would like for them to go. So even though this person was a senior level person, you're just kind of like, you get them on the phone and they are just a fire hose in your ear. And you're just like, okay, we need to get you back on your medication. You need to calm down. But all right, with that said, let's get into talking point number one. Most people only care about the result, not the messy, humiliating, exhausting middle. The segment breaks down how society ignores the grind, overlooks progress, and only tunes in once success becomes obvious. And that's where they tune out when success becomes not possible. Not everyone's going to win at the game of life. I consider myself to be a complete and total loser at the game of life. I have failed in every respect. No good job, no good home, no relationship, no nothing. I am a complete failure at life. And sometimes you just have to accept that. In fact, when I was driving over to look at some furniture today, I asked ChatGPT, why are so many men failures at launching their careers, at launching anything meaningful? And it came back with one simple reason. And it's going to bring this argument all the way back front and center. Many people don't have the social skills to be successful. I meet men like that all the time. I meet them at work, I meet them at the gym, I meet them in grocery stores. They are the vast majority of men. They're the men that Mike Rowe talks about that have no interest in participating in the workforce. These are men that are 18 to 55 years old. And according to Mike Rowe, there's 7 million men like this who just decided that the wages aren't enough. But what it really comes down to is a lot of these men never ever learn to socialize. In fact, I've had half a dozen conversations with women over the last couple of months about how they don't understand how men don't know how to act. Just initially meeting women, some men are ready to explode because they don't have women that talk to them on an average day. In fact, the other day I had a coworker who came up to me. I mean, I it's a person that I see that works in another building, not in the same building that I do, but we work for the same company. And she came over and she just started talking to me. And I was just kind of like, I've seen her around for years and years and years. And again, most men don't have a thriving population of females that talk to them. So when some woman stops and starts talking to them, they don't know how to behave. And that's a problem in our society is that most men, especially the men that give up early on even trying, it will be very difficult to get them into the workplace and them being successful. Because a lot of it is those phony smiles. A lot of it is those conversations which you don't say much. I mean, just noise, banter comes out of your mouth, and you have a conversation with other people, knowing full well that there's nothing to be gained. And I think a lot of societies come to that conclusion in which there's nothing to be gained by talking to that person. And when you realize that very quickly that, okay, I've gotten into a conversation. This person has nothing I want to hear. They have nothing to offer me. I have nothing to offer them, but I still have to be polite. Unfortunately, people who don't understand this game are the people that get left behind. They don't have the social skills. They don't know how to censor themselves. They can't acknowledge the way the other person is feeling, or they share too much. Like I've had that problem with Gen Z this week a few times where I've had to like look at them and just like, you got to bring it down. You can't just say whatever's on your mind to anyone at any time. That's just not the way the workplace works. But it is something that is currently happening, especially since a lot of people did remote learning for school for the last 4 or 5 years, especially after the bug hit. You had a lot of people who just turned inside. In my area, there's a lot of men that just don't know how to behave. And as I've mentioned before, throughout my entire technology career, many of my upper managers have had to turn to, ironically, the Ukraine to meet women because no American woman will have them. And therefore, they're forced to go overseas to look for a partner. But in the end, she ends up wanting to go back home because his personality is that terrible, which is another question I asked ChatGPT. How do you get rid of a terrible personality? Well, first you have to acknowledge that you have a terrible personality. And most men will not never acknowledge that they're the problem. Talking point number two. The support the support. The support shows up after you no longer need it. People will call you inspiring once you've already dragged yourself through hell. Let me read that back. People will call you inspiring once you already drag yourself through hell, but stay silent when you're actually drowning. This section explores the loneliness of ambition and why validation often comes too late. If you're struggling, if you're out there delivering pizzas, or like many of my female uh, fellow students when I was in school were dancing for tuition, uh, it's tough. It is really tough to find yourself making money by whatever means possible because I didn't have one or two or three. There was a lot of female students that I knew that worked at shady places to earn their salaries in $1 bills. And it was something that you could do. I mean, we have the OF site now, but back 7, 8, 9 years ago when I was in school, it wasn't a thing yet. So girls had to go out and audition at these places. In fact, I was taking a creative writing course one time, and two of the girls that were sitting with me happened to be working at Christie's. If you don't know what Christie's is, look it up. And in two, and not at the same time, but in two different essays that they wrote, because we had to peer review our essays with our groups, they were talking about what it was like to have to go out and buy those special shoes in order to dance. And I thought it was amazing because the stories were almost identical. They go to a seedy place, there's a seedy manager, and you audition. And based on that audition, you get wherever you're going to be on the schedule. The last place you want to be is Tuesday at 11 a.m. working at that place. There's an A team, there's a B team, and then there's everyone else that works in those places. When you go during the week at an off time, you're not going to get the A listed dancers. But I assure you, these girls that were in my class were all A level dancers. But I am way off topic here. I am sorry, Inu Blue. I don't know where I went. I think I'm just running late because I have 15 minutes to finish before I have to get to the second shift at the gym. It's morning lift, afternoon cardio. The time when no one cares was your real training ground. This part shifts to empowerment, explaining how invisibly, invisibly or inevitably forced you to build inner strength. Oh no, invisibility. Sorry, that's the word. Explain how invisibility forced you to build inner strength, unshakable confidence, and self-reliance that the public doesn't recognize and could never understand. Because most people give up when something's too hard. I saw this throughout my entire college career spanning a couple of decades. There were people that came into your major with all the ambition in the world. I remember sitting in a German class because I had to learn to speak a German for my Holocaust research degree, my history degree. So it was part of it is that you had to be able to at least understand and speak some German. And there was a girl that was really talented. She was probably 19, was living with her grandparents in Apache Junction. She was very, very attractive, tall, as I recall. And she was a brilliant student. But I think it wasn't even half the semester. When she stopped showing up regularly, she started looking really tired. And it was too much to work at night and come in and be at work in the early morning. I think that class started at 8 or 7:30. I remember it was very early in the morning and just she couldn't do it. The girls that I knew in other classes at the same semester that were working at Harkin's movie theater were going through the same thing. They were closing the movie theater, having to come home, do their homework, and then sleep a couple of hours and then come to school and then go back home and do it all over again. So it's exhausting. Sometimes the effort that it takes to get through school isn't about school itself. It's about everything else that's going on in the background. For me, I was going to school pretty much solidly for 10 years. When you're finishing 4 degrees concurrently, it's not an easy time. It's hard. You're working 40 hours. I'd have to get up early, go to the library, study before work. After work, I'd go home and I'd do homework for 4 more hours and somehow manage to fit in an entire 40-hour work week in between classes. And it was just hellish. I remember the night when school finally ended for me, and it felt like this huge weight had just been lifted off of my shoulders. I was finally done with my education. I was finally done with my minimum wage jobs. Little did I know that I would be spending the next 2.5 years working for the minimum wage in a retail setting. I would spend the next 2.5 years at the most humiliating job I've ever had, being run down by management that hated me. It was a classic evil corp situation. People that would tell me to quit nearly every day. A supervisor, the general manager, someone was always telling me that I didn't belong there. Well, if you've guessed this, people, by now, we poor people don't belong anywhere because If you're poor, it means you're a loser. And if you're a loser, you're invisible. No one wants to admit that all of your effort, all of your ambition, all of your trying can lead to failure. But it's led to failure in my life. I'm never going to amount to anything. And like many people who watch this channel, you acknowledge that. I'm looking through the comments, seeing hundreds of comments acknowledging the same thing. Like Marco Polo here in the comments wrote, "Little bro, put the fries in the bag." And your overpriced tacos in there too. And he also wrote, "Man, I went to the pizza parlor to get a couple slices of pizza and a Coke and I couldn't afford it." You guys are out there working the proletariat jobs. You are doing the service industry jobs. And like me, most of you are probably going to be overqualified for these service industry jobs, but you're not finding it. And there's one particular comment that broke my heart this morning in the comments, and it's from Astra 1564. She's an extremely talented tech worker. She's Gen Zero, but she's on her second layoff now in less than half a year. She disappeared from the comment section, but she just showed up today, and this is exactly what she wrote. "I'm ready to permanently give up because I'm tired of trying." I know that feeling. I feel that in the pit in my stomach. Every morning when I wake up, I tell myself I'm tired of trying. Why try in a system that doesn't want you to win? But with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Inu Blue, please keep the video requests coming in. As for all the rest of you that are out there in my comment section right now, I really, really appreciate you. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the donations. I appreciate you guys just supporting this channel the way that you guys do. Because without you guys, I don't think I could have brought back Millennial Steam for a second time. I just couldn't see myself starting over and over and over again like I have on YouTube for 20 years. In July, this channel will turn officially 20 years old. I mean, it's hard to believe that I was on YouTube in the year 2006 when it still looked like a website from 2006. But here I am, still fighting the good fight, still trying to do some good in this horrible world.